All right, good morning. Welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Market, pretty much yesterday gapped down and, rallied most of the day. Nothing too substantial. Ended up pulling back about 10 points into the close and, kind of closing at the same spot it was 30 minutes after the open yesterday. And we've seen a big compression in volatility, overall volatility. We spoke to that yesterday with a lot of individual names. But we see that just kind of happening across the board. Then last night we get we get the markets open up, and you can see this kind of push on higher. In fact, futures were up over 20 points at one point. And, this is on some word out of China of some potential monetary changes and some easing there in China, and that helped to push things higher. But you can see it hasn't held, right? It just hasn't held here as things have, fallen here. Now, you see this drop right here at about 5 a.m. my time. That is 7 a.m. Eastern, and that is when JP Morgan came out and released their earnings results. And it's kind of a similar story to yesterday in terms of Citigroup and the reaction from Citigroup. And the initial reaction was negative from Citigroup, but then was bought on up. And this morning, the initial reaction here on JP Morgan is negative, right? You can see the drop here in the stock, pushing it back under $100. And, is it going to have the same result as Citigroup yesterday? But you can see JP Morgan is taking Bank of America down a little bit, taking the XLF down a little bit, the financial ETF, and so that has been that kind of last leg down in futures to pretty much have futures sitting 2 points higher and indicating a market that's set to open up 2 points higher. Now, JP Morgan, still more to go with the conference call. It's ongoing right now. But very interesting. Their numbers missed a lot because of trading income, which is what we saw in Citigroup. But we hear, at least early on, JP Morgan's CFO made a comment that the markets feel calmer here in Q1. Well, JP Morgan's already talking about Q1 in their Q4 conference call, and I think that speaks volumes. I think that just absolutely speaks volumes to what JP Morgan thinks about Q4. It was crazy. It was in their opinion, kind of more of a one-off than a trend, and they're already looking at saying, okay, that quarter is behind us, next, right? That's kind of how they're looking at it. That's kind of how they're approaching it, and still more to come. We'll still have Jamie Dimon's comments and everything else to come. So it's an ongoing, fluid situation right now here with JP Morgan, but their CFO was pretty positive on the outlook here for 2019, and just one of those where, look, they missed their results. In fact, let's see if I could just bring the pure numbers over. It looks like I can't, but they missed on their results here. Fixed income was one of the areas where they were pretty weak, but overall, 2018 was a really good year for JP Morgan. But they had earnings per share expectations of $2.21, and they came in at $1.98. So pretty sizable miss. Revenue missed here. With them by about $100 million, so it's not exactly a big miss there on revenue, but in all, a pretty hefty move there for them with earnings. Wells Fargo also reported earnings. I have not had a chance to go through any of theirs here just yet, but we'll be doing that. We've also seen United Healthcare, UNH, which is trading down about $6 here in the pre-market. Delta Airlines has also reported earnings. These airlines are really interesting. Really interesting. We have seen some turbulence here in the airlines, and from American to Delta. But throughout all this turbulence and these kind of sharp down days that they've had, they continue to not have follow through on the sharp down days. They're down near lows, right? But they have these kind of basing patterns starting to come into them. And then you take a look at something like an Alaska Air, and it's actually been taking off a little bit. Now, some of this because of analysts, but my apologies. Overall, there's some very interesting action shaping up here in the airlines. Here with the XAL, you can see the XAL has been a little bit more positive than something like American or something like that. Delta earnings here, I am not really all that interested in, are the numbers good? Are they bad? Are they, what is this and what is that with the airline, numbers here? We can, I'll look at all of that. But with me, with the airlines, it's generally what's the reaction here with them. And what does management have to say about what they're going to be doing in the future? Where are they looking to? Where are they looking to gain market share? Where are they looking to grow revenues? Are they willing to just chase things for market share? Are they willing to just spend whatever to get increased revenue, or are they much more interested in growing profits? And when airlines are more interested in growing profits, investors cheer them and buy them. When airlines are more interested in growing revenues, investors are a little less happy because spending tends to get out of control. It looks like CNBC is reporting that Delta lost $25 million in revenue this month due to the shutdown. Due to the government shutdown and some of the travel restrictions. So, a significant number, but, when their Q1 revenue is $10 billion, it's not. It's not a monster number. So anyway, one of those types of numbers that gets priced in is a one-off type of event, not a trend here. So anyway, we have those here from the earnings. Looks like, and I'm seeing some of J.P. Morgan's comments come in from the conference call. They called the U.S. consumer very healthy. So that's interesting. But we'll see what Jamie Dimon has to say here in just a little bit. But overall, we're still sitting in a market that is devoid of a massive catalyst right here to really shoot it one way or the other, and I would not be surprised if we continue to see a little more just of this slogfest here, where option values compress, where we don't really see the market take off one way or the other, and the market, it's been a while since it's had something like that, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit more of that come on in today. Just looking at what and where some of the different catalysts are here this morning. Now I go into the day with a put position here on XLI that I picked up when XLI was down about 20 cents yesterday. XLI rallied; it was up about 30 cents, going into the close, and then sold off into the close with the market. So I'm down slightly here on the position. No real pre-market indication for it, here this morning. You take a look at some of the major components and whatnot. There's some analyst commentary on Triple M that's fairly negative. Let me grab it here. I thought I had it. Yeah, J.P. Morgan remains negative on Triple M, cuts the price target to 158 with an underweight rating, and basically says there's a fundamental disconnect between investor perception of business quality and quality of growth, which are pretty damning words. If you think back to General Electric and the big, drop last year in General Electric in the last 2 years in GE, this is something that JP Morgan was all over. They were all over with the sell rating, and it's it's one where they absolutely nailed it. So you have the same company, same individual, now kind of looking at Triple M and going, come on, things are not right here. Something is very wrong here. This has a lot lower to go, and that's what they've come out here with this morning. So, it'll have a little bit of an effect on XLI, but the market itself is going to have a much greater effect. And you can see pre-market, there's no real indication here for it just yet. But I'm not looking to go anywhere on it again. I think the upside's limited here for it. And yes, it could go higher, but I do think the overall upside is generally limited, and the downside is significant. Downside potential is very significant and very heavy. But, as I mentioned yesterday, I don't think it's one where we can look and go, well, the overwhelming odds are that it goes down. This is just something that if it does go down, pays off very, very nicely, where the odds are pretty slim of further uptick. So, we'll see how it plays out here, as the day progresses. Ultimately I may have to jump out, but, I don't think that'll be the case, but we will see. I don't have my eyes on anything right here at the open. I do have a little bit of cash that I can still put into play, but with the overall environment being option compression right here, it needs to be a beautiful opportunity. While I'll be looking, I don't see anything right here at the open that I go, wow, okay, boom, that's fantastic. I really want in there. One that may turn into that is AMD. Now, AMD has a rumor here on it that they are going to get bought out by Intel. If you've ever followed AMD over the years, it is one of those where it has been rumored that Intel's going to buy AMD forever, and it's the same rumor, and it always resurfaces, and it always results in the same thing. Intel's not interested. AMD gets crushed. And, we see the same rumor here, coming out here today, and it's just one of those that, it's going to create a short-term bump, but I'll be looking for to really kind of fade that bump here, and it's just one of those that, I don't buy it. Here's the article from eTimes, and you can just go to eTimes, and this is the name of the article if you want to see it there, but. It'll be interesting, but overall, we've seen it a million times, and ultimately it could happen. So, put a few $100 on a downside put here on AMD on this on this rumor. Something I'll be taking a look at this morning. In only if we see the sellers step in for it. And if they do, I'll look to take advantage of that and play Intel down or play AMD down into the $16 range. And this is ultimately a stock where my opinion on it. I think it's destined for single digits. And, I think that, yes, if Intel buys it, then they won't go to single digits. But, it's one where, we've seen that news about 1 million times here over the years. Thanks for hopping on. Have yourselves a fantastic day. We'll talk to you later. Take care.